And joining me now, Dr. Phil, whose interview with the former president just aired. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. You're clearly sympathetic to Trump.
Well, first off, I'm sympathetic to what Trump has gone through in this particular trial because I think it was not proper due process.
But it is not uncommon at all for people who are accomplices to crimes, people who have taken plea deals, non-prosecuted. That is not uncommon at all.
Well, really, give me examples of where that has been considered appropriate.
Did you wipe this earth?
What, like with a cloth or something? No.
Hey fam, welcome back to One and Done. Well, the Conspiracy Cult Network is back at it again. This time, Abby Phillips is interviewing Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil just recently interviewed Donald Trump. And once again, Abby Phillips sees a conspiracy theory because it's involving Donald Trump. The leftists who used to love Dr. Phil, as usual, are jumping ship. Now they're going to be discussing this trial regarding the hush money payments, which, by the way, could be falling over, could be a mistrial because one of the jurors leaked to their cousin at least 24 hours before the verdict that Donald Trump was going to be charged as a criminal. We're also going to take a flashback to see what a criminal Hillary Clinton was. But before we dive in, don't forget to hit the like, smash the subscribe, ring the notification bell, and without delay, let's roll that tape.
Okay, so you and the senator can read the former president's promises yourself. He promised to prosecute his perceived enemies in plain English, like this post that he made just hours ago on Truth Social. It's pretty short. Indict the unselect J6 committee.
Yes, 100%, because they deleted files, emails, and other important information. And we've seen what they've done with the January 6th footage. They selectively edited it to get the general public hyped up over this so-called insurrection. Why else would they get rid of all of the evidence? Now these guys are getting butthurt over Dr. Phil's interview with the former president, Donald Trump.
And joining me now, Dr. Phil, whose interview with the former president just aired. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. You're clearly sympathetic to Trump, but you believe that he should drop this talk of revenge. Did he commit to not pursuing that if he was elected president?
Well, first off, I'm sympathetic to what Trump has gone through in this particular trial because I think it was not proper due process for him. I would say the same thing if it was Biden or anyone else in that process. So I want to be clear on that.
Exactly. And breaking news today is the fact that someone in the jury leaked at least one day before the verdict that Donald Trump was going to get convicted. Now that alone is grounds for a mistrial. So we'll wait to see what happens with that. But Dr. Phil's right. This is injustice. This is targeting your political opponent, the front runner.
I mean, tell us why you think he didn't get due process. I mean, the proceedings, we had reporters in there. I was there for a lot of it. There was a judge and he adjudicated a lot of these questions. Why do you think he wasn't given a fair process?
Well, I think it's a number of things. I think from a jury standpoint, and again, let me be clear, I'm not a lawyer. I look at it in terms of what the jury was given to solve this puzzle. And I think they heard some things that were very prejudicial that had nothing to do with solving the problem of the case at hand. I think there are some things that are considered black letter law or Hornbook law that's just really not something that is controversial at all that was violated. I think you don't have someone that is considered to be an accomplice in a crime that has pled out or made a non-prosecution agreement and allow that information into the jury's awareness because it's very prejudicial and is not really probative of anything that they're asked to be problem solving or consider.
Who are you referring to there?
Michael
Cohen. I mean, well,
yeah.
Dr. Phil, I don't want to get too deep into the law here, but it is not uncommon at all for people who are accomplices to crimes, people who have taken plea deals, non-prosecuted. That is not uncommon at all for those people to then testify in subsequent trials for their alleged co-conspirators. That's kind of how a lot of these prosecutions work.
And one thing I completely disagree with is the law going to these so-called witnesses, these criminals who are about to go to jail for something, go to prison for something, and do a deal. hey, if you tell us about Donald Trump and, help our case out, instead of doing 2 years, you're only going to do 4 months. Now, Michael Cohen might be a dingbat, but he's also smart when it comes to working out monetary things. I mean, he did rip Donald Trump off $60,000. But this is what they do. They pick off each of the people in Donald Trump's team, they threaten them with jail time, and then they strike a deal. There's no doubt about it. They've been out to get him since he named or put through his name in the hat for the presidency back in 2015. It's been non-stop. They've never gone after anyone so hard. And like I've said before, this is the worst they could find. Now, if your lawyer invoices you for something and you put on their legal fees, what's the problem with that? He's a lawyer, he's representing you legally, and here's his fees.
Well, really, give me examples of where that has been considered appropriate.
I mean, look, prosecutors are prosecuting organized crime all the time. And in a lot of those cases, they are relying on co-conspirators to put people who are at the higher levels of the organization behind bars. I don't understand how you can say that because someone signed was not prosecuted, signed a non-prosecution agreement, that information or their testimony cannot be presented before the jury if they were a part of the alleged scheme.
But you'll have to give me an example to respond to, because I just simply don't agree with that. I think it's not typical for juries to do this. I've spent most of my career.
It happens in mob cases all the time.
But Abby, why are you always playing the dingwit? He's asked you for a specific case, a specific example, and you keep saying this happens all the time, but you can't mention or name one case.
I don't understand. Look, Dr. Phil, I mean, I don't understand why you would think that Michael Cohen, who is a key person in a lot of the narrative here, should not have been allowed to testify in this case. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I said what I said. I think the fact that he made an agreement to say that he is guilty of the crime that the defendant is being tried for prejudices the jury that, hey, here's someone that's supposedly an accomplice that has said, I'm guilty of this. That prejudices a jury about the person that's currently on trial for the same crime.
I have some quibbles with what you're describing as the same crime. Michael Cohen was not charged with falsifying business records. That he actually was not prosecuted for that crime. But I do want to move on, because on this issue of what Trump is going to do if he is elected, did you get any clarity from him about whether he would try to pursue the people perhaps who pursued him, DAs or his political enemies?
Well, certainly that's a big issue. And I lean very strongly into the position of saying, look, this is not going to help this country. If you get into a position of power and your agenda is one of revenge, retribution, saying, okay, you came after me, so now I'm going to come after you, America picks up the tab for that. That's not anything that's good to do. That's going to take up time. That's just playing tit for tat. So you go after them because they came after you, then they come after you because they go after them. In the meantime, what about America? What about the business of America? What about the issues of education? What about the issues of the border? What about the issues of inflation? What about the issues of healthcare? What about all the things that the people really care about? They're not interested in you playing gotcha with the people that you think got you. We're not interested in that. Nobody's interested in that. And
how did you
on
respond
you
to that?
Yeah, but the mainstream media aren't interested in that because they're in the pocket of the Democrat Party. And the Democrat Party are in the pocket of the deep state swamp creatures. They don't care about justice. They just want to get Trump out because he can't be controlled. He can't be manipulated. He doesn't like wars. He likes peace. He likes to do business. And he loves the American people. He might say a few mean things here and there, but hell, who could blame him? He was beloved for decades until 2015 when he announced he was running for president. Ever since then, there's been smear campaign. They've been trying to trip him up, indictments, criminal charges. And then we find out all the people that are trying to charge him are all crooks, crooked, implicated in schemes to try and trap him. They hide evidence. They exaggerate other evidence. They provide information out of context. It's never ending. And Dr. Phil's right. the American people suffer. And that's why you see in the polls, the American people have had enough. Joe Biden and the Democrats are very divisive. They're supposed to be the party that was going to bring everybody together, but they're not. Their policies are horrible. Got to remember, the Democrats were slave lovers. They loved Jim Crow. They brought that in. The Great Society Act. All the worst things that have happened. These are their policies. Open borders. Look at the crime and chaos that has come as a result of these open borders. And a lot of them they can't track because they're out there on the loose. And on top of that, they spend money hand over fist. And on BS crimes, well, not a crime, like this one. Over hush money payments, NDAs, which are absolutely legal. And once again, if you're paying your lawyer for legal fees, what do you put on there? Legal fees. And it was a misdemeanor that had already run the statute of limitations. This is an absolute farce. And it's already falling to bits because one of the jurors has already leaked the verdict before it became public knowledge.
You know, I mean, that's your perspective. What do you sense is his inclination? Because just today, he said, for example, that he would indict the January 6th committee members, presumptively the members of Congress who were on that committee investigating what happened on January 6th. Are you more or less convinced after sitting down with him that he actually would follow through on those kinds of pledges?
Well, I actually don't think he will. I think this is a situation that, it's a process. This is something that I think he's had in his mind that there's only one way to go, and that's to get even. And I think I've really made some headway with him that is not the way to go. I think it's a process. I think he'll turn this over and over in his mind, and I don't think he will do that. And to the extent that I have any opportunity to lean into this with him, I am going to relentlessly try and get him to not do that and to get others to not do that. Look, we need to stop this. This is a time where America needs to come together, not be playing gotcha and going on some kind of revenge tour. We don't need that. We don't have time for that. It's not good for America. We need to unify, not be going after people that we think came after us, whether we think they did so fairly or otherwise.
And look, I completely agree. America has taken the eye off the ball. We're in a global economy, a global market. And while Biden and these deep state swamp creatures are spending all their time, energy, and money on this, other countries are looking at prospering. They're doing business. They can't wait for America to sort their BS out. Other powerful players around the world are forming alliances. And there's a saying, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Now, the US might be the biggest player at the moment. Let's hope they're not ready for the hardest fall of them all. Now, here's the other thing. You remember back when Trump was saying, lock her up, lock her up. Everyone was chanting, lock her up. Okay, what people say is important, but their actions are even more important. Did she get locked up? No, it's not something he wanted to do because of the institution. He didn't want to lock up a former president's wife. He didn't think it would be a good look for the country worldwide. Now, Hillary's the biggest crook of them all. Here's a refresher.
Watch what happens as a reporter asks the former Secretary of State if she wiped her private email server.
I have no idea. That's why we turned it over.
You were in charge of it. You were the official in charge. Did you wipe the server?
What, like with a cloth or something? No, well, no.
This showdown came nearly an hour into Clinton's appearance after Clinton took shots at the Republican stance on immigration. But a reporter's persistent questions about her server seemed to get under Clinton's skin. Watch.
But we turned over everything that was work-related, every single thing. Personal stuff, we did not. I had no obligation to do so and did not. Thank you all.
Thank you all very much. So she walks away so abruptly, people, I think they're stunned because they don't even applaud. Then you see her turn around and gesture toward the crowd, although it's not clear what she was saying. No time to dwell, though, because after that town hall, Clinton went straight to the Constitutional Convention at the Luxor where she spoke. That was a closed event.
Yeah, she should have been locked up. And Democrats are getting booed all over the place at all of these talking events. Now, that was back in 2016, but today they can't go anywhere without being booed. Everybody's had enough.
The last thing we need is for Trump to be going after people that he thinks have treated him unfairly.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you are personally taking it upon yourself to talk through this with him, but for the voters who are evaluating this very issue. You know, Donald Trump is explicitly saying, I'm going to prosecute my predecessor, Joe Biden, if I'm elected. He's explicitly saying he wants to go after his political enemies. He will go after the members of Congress who were doing their jobs, investigating what happened on January 6th. Don't voters need to weigh that, especially since the argument that Trump is making with no evidence is that Biden is going after him?
I think they absolutely have to weigh that. And if they think that Donald Trump or any other candidate is going to do that, then, and they think that is not what I'm putting somebody in office for, then they absolutely shouldn't vote for it. I don't think that's what we're putting people in office to do. That's running their agenda instead of America's agenda. And we need people to run America's agenda. Look, we've got serious problems, and it takes serious people to deal with those problems. I'm not a political animal. It doesn't matter to me whether somebody's Democrat or Republican. I could care less, don't know enough about politics to talk about it intelligently. But I can tell you this, from a cultural standpoint, we need people working on the problems that are impacting the quality of life in America, impacting the quality of medical care, impacting the quality of education, impacting the quality of people's ability to feed and take care of their families. And that doesn't leave room to be playing gotcha and retribution and revenge. That's not what we need. We need people to get in there and do their jobs. And if not, they shouldn't have the privilege. That's not a legacy, it's a privilege. And we shouldn't be putting people in office that want to play those kind of games.
So there we have it, folks, the Conspiracy Cult Network. They really hate America, don't they? They feed you BS after BS. Dr. Phil's absolutely right, and you don't have to be into politics, you just need common sense. If your eye's on the ball that's not in play, you're going to lose the game. And I must admit, Dr. Phil has had some really base takes lately, and I believe he's genuinely concerned. Now, in regards to CNN, their ratings are in the toilet, and that's absolutely no surprise. So why don't you guys let me know what you think? I look forward to seeing the comments in the comment section. Now, if you like this content, don't forget to hit the like, smash the subscribe, ring the notification bell, and I'll catch you in the next video.